I've driven the I-44 corridor between Tulsa and Springfield so many times that my body does it without consulting my brain. 16 years behind the wheel of a Kenworth W990, hauling refrigerated freight for Midwest cold chain, and the road became something I didn't look at anymore. I felt it, the slight banking before the Claremore exit, the way the asphalt texture changes just past Veneta, where they patched it in 2019. The rhythm of overpasses through Joplin like a pulse you could set a watch to. My name is Dale Morrow, 44 years old, divorced once, amicably, no kids, one brother in Wichita I talk to on Sundays. I'm telling you this because you need to understand that I am not a man prone to confusion. My spatial memory is the one thing I have that nobody can argue with. Dispatchers used to test me, name an exit number, and I'd tell you what was on both sides, what the nearest fuel price ran, whether the shoulder was gravel or paved. I was a party trick at company barbecues. So when I tell you the signs changed overnight, I need you to understand what that means coming from me. It was a Tuesday, April 8th. I'd picked up a load of frozen poultry in Tulsa at 3 a.m. and was running north on 44 toward the Springfield Distribution Center, same as I'd done maybe 300 times before. Dark road, light traffic, the kind of early morning haul where you're alone with the hum of the reefer unit and the white dashes coming at you like Morse code. The first sign I noticed was just past the Chelsea exit, green reflective rectangle, standard highway font. But instead of reading Veneta 22/Joplin 89/Springfield 164, it read something else entirely. One destination, one arrow, one word I had never seen in my life. Carradine, 44 miles. I didn't slow down. Not yet. My first thought was construction detour. Maybe ODOT put up temporary signage for some new development. It happens. But something felt wrong in a way I couldn't immediately name, and it took me another mile to identify it. The sign wasn't temporary. It wasn't orange. It wasn't mounted on a portable frame. It was bolted to the same green steel cantilever that had held the Veneta sign for as long as I'd been driving this road. Permanent infrastructure, reflective sheeting, correct font height, DOT standard in every way except for the fact that it pointed to a place that didn't exist. I checked my GPS. The screen showed my blue arrow moving north on 44, surrounded by the names I expected. Veneta, Big Cabin, Adair. No mention of Carradine anywhere. I almost dismissed it then. Almost let the road take me forward the way it always did. Then I passed another sign. Same format, same destination, same distance minus the miles I'd covered. Carradine, 38 miles. And behind it, in the darkness, the Veneta exit ramp. I could see the glow of the travel center. The world was still there. The towns were still there. But the signs no longer acknowledged them. I pulled into the Loves in Veneta at 4:17 a.m. I remember the time because I looked at the dashboard clock 3 times, like checking it would anchor something. The truck stop was normal. Fluorescent light falling on wet concrete, a couple of other rigs idling in the back lot, a woman in a reflective vest filling a coffee thermos near the diesel pumps. I went inside and bought a coffee I didn't want just to talk to someone. "You notice anything weird with the highway signs?" I asked the kid at the register. Couldn't have been older than 20. Name tag said Marcus. He looked at me the way you look at a long-haul driver at 4 in the morning. Like anything I said was probably the product of too many hours and too little sleep. Signs? On 44, north of Chelsea. They all say the same thing now, someplace called Carradine. Marcus shrugged. "Haven't been on the highway tonight. You want a receipt?" I took the receipt, went back to my truck, sat in the cab with the engine running, and pulled up my phone. Typed Carradine into Google. Nothing. No town listing, no Wikipedia entry, no results in any state. I tried different spellings. Carradine, Carradine, Carradine. Nothing matched anything real. I called my dispatcher. Ricky Fenn, night shift. Picked up on the second ring. "Dale, you better not be broken down." "I'm not. Ricky, have you heard of a place called Carradine?" Silence, then. "A place called what?" "Carradine. Carroden. It's on every sign on 44 northbound. Past Chelsea all the way through here." "Dale, I'm looking at your route on the board right now. Everything's normal. No alerts from ODOT. No construction notices. I'm telling you what I'm seeing, Ricky. And I'm telling you what the system says. Your delivery window opens at 7:30 at the Springfield Center. Are you going to make it or not? Handsome. I told him I'd make it. Hung up, drank the coffee, pulled back onto the highway. The next sign I passed still said, Carradine, 26 miles now. But something new had appeared beneath it. A second line, smaller, in the standard green and white format reserved for services or attractions. All routes. That's when my hands tightened on the wheel, because all routes isn't a destination. It's a claim. It means there's no road that doesn't lead there. I want to be precise about what happened next, because precision is all I have left. Between Veneta and the Oklahoma-Missouri border, I counted 14 signs. Every single one listed Carradine as the sole destination. The mileage decreased consistently, which meant the place, whatever it was, sat somewhere just across the state line, roughly where I'd expect to see the outskirts of Joplin. But Joplin was still there. I could see its light pollution on the horizon, that familiar amber haze. The exits appeared on schedule, the turnoffs I'd taken 1,000 times, marked with gas station logos and hospital H signs. Those secondary markers hadn't changed. Fuel, food, lodging, all the usual icons. It was only the destination text that had been replaced, as if someone had decided that everywhere was now just a waypoint on the route to this one place. At 5:40 a.m., just past the state line, I noticed the first vehicle taking an exit that shouldn't have interested anyone at that hour. A white sedan, family-sized, pulling off at a rest area that I knew had been closed for renovation since January. I saw its taillights descend the ramp and disappear behind a tree line that shouldn't have concealed anything except a locked parking lot and some plastic barriers. It didn't come back. 10 minutes later, another car, silver SUV, same exit pattern, not a fuel stop, not a town exit, but one of those unnamed numbered ramps that usually serve maintenance access or rural county roads. It turned off with the casual confidence of someone who knew exactly where they were going. I was in the left lane. I watched in my mirrors. The SUV didn't reappear. I started counting vehicles. Between mile marker 8 and mile marker 32, I watched 11 cars and 2 trucks exit the highway at intervals. Not unusual in itself, except that the exits they chose were wrong. They were maintenance ramps, closed rest areas, routes that led to nothing I'd ever seen in 16 years. And the highway was getting emptier. By the time I reached the outskirts of Joplin proper, the real Joplin, with its Walmart and its hospital and its high school football stadium lights, I was nearly alone on the road. I'd started the night in moderate company. Now my headlights found only empty asphalt ahead and silence behind. My GPS still showed the correct route. My phone still showed Springfield ahead. But every green sign above me, every piece of physical infrastructure designed to tell a driver where they are and where they're going, told the same story. Carradine, 9 miles. All routes. I drove through what should have been Joplin. The city lights were there, off to the sides, behind sound walls and overpasses. But nobody was on the road. Nobody was entering the highway. It was 5:50 in the morning on a Tuesday, and the I-44 interchange at Joplin was deserted. I kept going, because Springfield was ahead and my load was due, and if I just kept driving north, I would arrive where I always arrived. That's what I told myself. That's what I needed to believe. Sunrise came at 6:22 a.m., and it didn't help. In my experience, daylight solves most highway unease. The things that feel wrong at 4 a.m., a shadow in the tree line, an exit that seems unfamiliar, the paranoid sense that you missed a turn, they dissolve when the sun puts everything back into its proper visual register. You see the mundane machinery of the world, and your night brain lets go. This morning, daylight only made the signs more visible, more legible, more real. They weren't crude. They weren't hand-painted or temporary or wrong in any way that suggested vandalism or error. They were perfect. Regulation font, retro-reflective sheeting catching the morning light exactly the way DOT signs are designed to. The green was correct. The white lettering was correct. The distance calculations were mathematically consistent with my odometer. Whoever, whatever had done this understood highway infrastructure at a professional level. I tried the radio. Scanned AM, then FM. Most stations came through normally. Morning shows, weather reports, the farm futures broadcast out of Kansas City. Nobody mentioned the signs. Nobody mentioned Carradine. I found one station, some local AM talk channel around 1090, where the host was taking calls about road closures. And a woman called in saying traffic on 71 South was all wrong this morning, everybody turning off before Carl Junction. The host thanked her and moved on to a weather segment. That was it. One caller on one station. That was all the world had to say about what was happening. At 6:45, I called Ricky again. Dale, you're cutting it close. Where are you? I'm past Joplin, but Ricky, I need you to listen to me. Something is wrong on this highway. Wrong how? Accident? Construction? The signs. All the highway signs between Tulsa and here have been changed. They all point to one place, and I'm watching other drivers follow them off the road. Ricky's keyboard clacked in the background. I'm pulling up traffic cameras right now. I-44 northbound. I'm not seeing anything unusual, Dale. Signs look normal on the feeds. They don't look normal in person. Are you feeling okay? When's the last time you slept? And there it was. The question that makes everything you say inadmissible. I told him I'd slept 6 hours before my shift. He said, okay. He said, just get to Springfield. He said the customer was expecting the load by 8. I hung up and almost threw the phone. Because Ricky wasn't lying, I believed him that the cameras showed normal signs, which meant either I was wrong about what I was seeing with my own eyes, or the signs were only wrong in person, only wrong to the people on the road. And the people on the road were disappearing one by one, following the directions without question, the way you follow directions because you've spent your whole life trusting the infrastructure. At 7:04 a.m., I saw another truck, a FedEx double, northbound, about a quarter mile ahead of me. I watched it for 3 full minutes, matching its speed, grateful for the company. Then its right blinker came on. The exit it was approaching was one I knew well. Exit 29, Sarcoxy. Small town, nothing much. But the sign above the exit no longer said Sarcoxy. It said, Carradine exit here. 2 miles to arrival. The FedEx truck took the exit. Smooth, unhesitating. Like a driver who'd been assigned this route and saw nothing unusual about it. I grabbed my CB radio, old habit, barely anyone uses channel 19 anymore, but truckers still monitor it. Northbound FedEx unit just took exit 29. This is cold chain unit 2207. You copy? What's your destination? Static. Then a voice. Male, middle-aged, flat affect. 2207. I'm running a scheduled delivery to Carradine Distribution. What do you need? My stomach dropped. There's no distribution center at Sarcoxy. That exit goes to a 2-lane county road and a Dollar General. Brief pause. I'm not going to Sarcoxy, driver. I'm going to Carradine. It's on my manifest. Since when? That place doesn't exist. Another pause, longer. When he spoke again, his tone had shifted. Not defensive, but confused in a way that sounded like I'd asked him to prove the sky was blue. It's on my manifest. I've got a delivery window. I don't know what to tell you, man. His signal faded as the ramp pulled him away from the highway. I watched his trailer descend below the sight line and vanish behind a wall of budding trees. I stayed on the highway. My hands hurt from gripping the wheel. Here's what I keep coming back to. He wasn't confused about the destination. He was confused about my confusion. To him, Carradine was real enough to have a delivery window, real enough to be printed on a schedule. The signs in the world matched for him in a way they no longer matched for me, and I couldn't tell who was wrong. 3 more vehicles passed me going the opposite direction, southbound. I watched them in my mirror. All 3 had their right blinkers on, preparing for exits that would take them east toward wherever this was. One was a school bus, yellow, standard issue. It was 7:10 in the morning, and a school bus was exiting the highway toward a town I couldn't find on any map. I was alone on I-44 northbound, completely alone. The sun was fully up, the sky was cloudless, and the emptiest interstate in America stretched in front of me with signs every half mile confirming that I was the last driver who hadn't arrived where I was supposed to be going. I almost took exit 38. I need to tell you that honestly. At mile marker 36 northbound, with Springfield still showing on my GPS, but the road ahead feeling like something I was no longer authorized to be on, I almost let the wheel turn. The sign said, Corrodon exit 38 final approach, and my blinker arm moved a half inch before I caught myself. It wasn't curiosity. It wasn't obedience. It was something worse. It was the professional muscle memory of a man who has spent his entire adult life following signs. You see a direction, you take it. That's the job. That's what separates a trucker from a tourist. We don't interpret signs, we obey them. That's the contract between a commercial driver and the infrastructure. You trust the system tells you where to go. Freight moves, the world works. And now the system was telling me to go somewhere I'd never heard of, and every trained reflex in my body wanted to comply. I passed exit 38. The ramp curved away to the east and I could see it, just barely, through a gap in the tree line. A road continuing beyond where my mental map said the road should end. Not a dead end, not a county two-lane terminating at a farm gate. An actual road, paved, continuing east with what looked like other vehicles moving along it in the distance. Going somewhere. I accelerated, pushed the truck to 68, 5 over my governed limit, which the ECM would flag. I didn't care. I needed to reach Springfield. I needed to see a sign that said Springfield. I needed the world to be the world again. At 7:31 a.m., the sign appeared. Springfield, 14 miles. Standard green, standard font, standard exit numbers listed below: Campbell, Glenstone, Kansas Expressway. The names I knew, the city I'd been driving toward for 16 years. I almost cried. But below the Springfield signage, mounted on the same cantilever arm, was a second panel. Smaller, quieter. The kind of sign you'd see for a scenic byway or a state park. Informational, not directional. It said, Corrodon via all exits. No arrival deadline. I took my delivery to Springfield. I pulled into the cold chain distribution center at 7:54 a.m. The dock workers were normal. The unloading process was normal. I signed the delivery receipt, got my BOL stamped, and walked to the driver's lounge to pour a cup of burnt coffee. On the wall above the coffee machine was a printed notice from Fleet Management, dated 3 weeks ago. New route added, Corrodon Distribution Center. All drivers, update your preferred routes in the dispatch system. Contact Ricky Fenn for scheduling. I stood in front of that notice for a long time. The coffee went cold in my hand. The paper was real. Thumbtacked to the corkboard between a reminder about DOT physicals and a sign-up sheet for the company softball league. Same printer, same formatting, same slightly off-center company logo that Cold Chain used on all internal memos. Dated March 18th, 3 weeks before my drive, which meant this notice had been hanging here every time I'd visited this lounge in March. I'd stood in this exact spot at least 4 times since that date. I either hadn't seen it, or I'd seen it and it hadn't registered, or it hadn't been there until now despite carrying a date that said otherwise. All 3 options were impossible in their own way. I pulled the notice off the board and turned it over. Blank, standard copy paper. I folded it and put it in my jacket pocket, then went to find someone, anyone who could tell me what this was. The distribution center had maybe a dozen people working the morning shift. I found Carl Espinoza, a dock supervisor I'd known for years. Good guy, straightforward. Carl, you seen this memo about Corrodon? He looked at the paper in my hand. Yeah? The new route? What do you know about it? Carl shrugged the way people shrug when you ask about something they consider boring. New distribution point, went active a few weeks ago. I think Hendricks took the first run. Tom Hendricks? Yeah, he's been running it twice a week. Where is it? East of here. Off 44, I think. Maybe an hour? He was already looking past me, checking a clipboard. Why? You putting in for it? Carl, I've driven this corridor for 16 years. There is no town called Corrodon east of here. There's Sarcoxy, there's Mount Vernon, there's... Dale. He looked at me fully now. Patient, the same look Ricky had given me over the phone. It's on the route board. Hendricks goes there. The loads go there. I don't know what to tell you. I asked for Hendrix's number. Carl gave it to me. I went back to my truck and sat in the cab and dialed. Tom Hendricks picked up on the fourth ring. Road noise in the background. He was driving. Tom, it's Dale Morrow. Dale, hey man, long time. What's up? Where are you right now? Heading to Carrollton. Why? The words sat in my ear like a stone. Can you describe it to me? The town? The distribution center? Silence. Not suspicious silence. Confused silence. You've never been? I thought everyone had picked it up by now. Just describe it. I mean, it's a town. There's a center off the main road. New construction. Big loading docks. Nice facility, actually. They've got good coffee in the driver's lounge. Town itself is small, quiet, pleasant. He paused. You're thinking about adding it to your rotation? It's good miles. Tom, when did you first hear about Carrollton? I don't. March, maybe late February? It was on the board and I signed up. Easy run. And before that, before it was on the board, had you ever heard of it? Another pause, longer. I could hear him thinking, and for a moment I thought I'd broken through something, cracked some shell. But when he spoke again, his voice was easy, undisturbed. I guess I hadn't, but that's not weird. New developments go up all the time. I'd never heard of half the Amazon fulfillment centers before they showed up on my manifest. Doesn't mean they weren't real. He had a point. That was the worst part. He had a completely reasonable point. I didn't go home. I drove to the ODOT field office in Springfield, the Missouri equivalent, MoDOT, technically. But the staff handles interstate signage for this stretch of 44. I knew a woman there named Gail Proctor, an operations technician who'd helped me once when I reported a down sign near Republic. Professional, detail-oriented. I found her at her desk, eating a granola bar over a keyboard. Gail, I need to ask you something, and I need you to take me seriously. She put the granola bar down. Okay. The signs on A44, between Tulsa and here. Who authorized the Carrollton signage? Gail's eyebrows went up slightly. Not alarm, just mild surprise. She turned to her computer, typed, clicked, scrolled. Carrollton. Yeah, here it is. Work order completed February 22nd. New destination signage, 26 panels. I-44 northbound and southbound between Chelsea, Oklahoma, and Springfield. Standard installation, crew of 4, 2 nights. Who submitted the work order? More clicking. Regional planning. Standard process. Municipality request. Traffic study approval. Installation. Looks routine, Dale. What municipality? Who requested it? The town of Carrollton. They applied for highway access designation last fall. Approved November. Signed off by, she squinted at the screen, Regional Director, Brad Alt. He's in Jeff City. Everything was documented. Everything had a paper trail. Forms, signatures, dates, approval chains. The bureaucratic skeleton was perfect and complete, as if a town had followed every proper channel to announce its existence to the highway system, and every institution had responded exactly as it should. Except the town wasn't on any map, wasn't in any census record, wasn't in any database I could access through my phone. The infrastructure acknowledged it. The paperwork acknowledged it. The people who interacted with it acknowledged it. But the digital world, the satellites, the databases, the vast index machinery of the internet had never heard of it. Gail, can you search for Carrollton on a map for me? She typed it into Google Maps. Nothing. Apple Maps. Nothing. The MoDOT interactive map. Nothing. She stared at the screen, then at me, then back at the screen. That's, She clicked back to the work order. But it's right here in our system. Work order, GPS coordinates for sign placement, everything. Does the work order list coordinates for the town itself? She scrolled, found something, read it. Then her face did something I can't fully describe. A brief tightening, then a release, as if a thought had arrived and then been gently intercepted. You know what? It's probably just a mapping delay. New developments sometimes take a while to show up in public databases. I'm sure it'll populate soon. Gail, I've got to get back to this, but if you want to flag it, you can submit a form. I'll put it in the queue. She was done. Not hostile, not dismissive. Just finished with the question, the way you're finished with a thought that has no comfortable conclusion. She'd reached the edge of the strangeness, and her mind had built a small, sensible bridge over it, mapping delay, new development, nothing to worry about, and walked across. I left the office with the distinct feeling that I was the last person on earth for whom that bridge wasn't appearing. I drove back to my apartment in Springfield. Small place, one bedroom, a kitchen I barely use, a parking spot in back where I plug in the truck's block heater in winter. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, and I searched for 3 hours. Carrollton, Missouri, Carrollton, Oklahoma, Carrollton distribution, Carrollton development, Carrollton plus highway plus construction plus new town. Nothing, not a single result, not a news article, not a planning document, not a real estate listing, not a Reddit post, not a Facebook group, not a photo. In 2026, a place cannot exist without a digital footprint. A place with highway signs and a distribution center and regular truck deliveries should have reviews, addresses, satellite imagery, employment listings. I tried the GPS coordinates from Gail's work order. I'd memorized them from her screen. Pulled them up on Google Earth. The satellite image showed forested hills, a county road, maybe a creek. No town, no development, nothing. But when I'd stood at exit 29 that morning, the exit the FedEx driver had taken, I'd seen a road continuing east. I'd seen vehicles on it. I called my brother, Dean, in Wichita. Dale, it's not Sunday. I know. I need to ask you something strange. Have you ever heard of a place called Carrollton? Carrollton? No. Should I have? Look it up for me. I heard him typing. Then, nothing's coming up. What is it? I don't know. You sound weird. Are you okay? I don't know that either. Dean was quiet for a moment. Do you need me to come out there? No, not yet. I just needed someone else to tell me it isn't a real place. It's not a real place, Dale. At least not according to the internet. Thank you. After I hung up, I opened my email, scrolled down to the dispatch assignments from Ricky, found my schedule for the next week. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Tulsa to Springfield, the usual. Normal routing. Then I opened the archive schedule from March, scrolled back through it looking for anything unusual. March 21st, a route assignment I didn't remember seeing before. Springfield to Carrollton, my truck number, my CDL number. Delivery window, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Status, completed. My signature on the electronic receipt. My driver ID confirmed at the facility gate. Timestamp, March 21st, 10:47 a.m. I had, according to every record, already been there. Already delivered a load. Already signed off. Already left. And I had no memory of it whatsoever. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my truck in the parking lot behind my apartment, and I went through every piece of paper in my cab, every manifest, every BOL, every fuel receipt. The March 21st run wasn't a phantom. I found the fuel stop, Love's in Mount Vernon, 6:48 a.m., heading east. I found the receipt for a sandwich at a gas station I'd never been to, timestamp 9:12 a.m. with an address that didn't correspond to any road I could identify. My handwriting, my card. I tried to remember that day. March 21st, a Thursday. I would have woken at 4 a.m. Coffee, shower, cab start, route east. But when I reached for the memories, they were there. Just generic, like a composite of every haul I'd ever made. I couldn't pin a specific detail to that date. Couldn't remember the weather, or what was on the radio, or if I'd talked to anyone. It wasn't a gap. It wasn't amnesia. It was worse. It was normalcy. The day sat in my memory as completely unremarkable. I'd gone somewhere, delivered something, come home, like any other day. But the somewhere was Carrollton, and I couldn't remember a single thing about it. At 3 a.m., unable to sleep, I drove back to I-44, southbound toward Joplin. The signs were still there in the darkness, corroded, green, and absolute. I took exit 29, the one the FedEx driver had taken that morning. The ramp descended to a county road. 2 lanes, no streetlights. My headlights found pavement stretching east, straight and flat, cut through timber. I could see maybe a quarter mile before the road curved. I stopped at the bottom of the ramp, idled. The road east was just a road. No barrier, no gate, no strangeness. Trees on either side, center line markings, fresh. A sign at the ramp's base. Carradine 2 miles. Welcome. I sat there for 11 minutes. I know because I watched the clock. 11 minutes with my foot on the brake and the road ahead dark and empty and open. A car came down the ramp behind me. Sedan. Dark blue or black, couldn't tell. It passed me without hesitating, turned east and accelerated into the darkness. Tail lights shrinking, then gone around the curve. No honk, no pause, no uncertainty. I backed up the ramp, returned to the highway, drove home. But I felt it, that pull in my chest. Not curiosity, not fear. Something older and simpler. The feeling you get when you've been driving away from something and your body knows it, the way a compass knows north. A directional ache pointing east. I had already been there. I had already arrived and departed and forgotten. And the place was still pulling me, as if my forgetting was not a severance but a delay. The next morning, Wednesday, I went to the cold chain offices and asked to see my complete route history. The fleet manager, a woman named Patricia Kemp, pulled it up without suspicion. Just a driver checking his records. Normal. You want a printout? Please. She printed 6 months of history. I took it to the driver's lounge and spread it on the table. March 21st, Springfield, Carradine. Completed. That was the only one. But as I read through April, I noticed something in the scheduling queue. My name appeared on a projected rotation. April 12th, Carradine. April 19th, Carradine. April 26th, Carradine. May 3rd, Carradine. Today was April 8th. I had a Carradine run scheduled in 4 days. I went back to Patricia. These Carradine assignments, can I opt out? She looked at me over her glasses. You already accepted them, Dale. Back in March, you signed the rotation preference. I don't remember doing that. Well, it's in the system. Your electronic signature. If you want to swap, you'd need to find another driver willing to take them. I asked who else ran Carradine. She listed names: Tom Hendricks, Sarah Voss, Miguel Esparza, Dave Caulfield. 5 drivers total on the rotation, me included. I knew all of them. I called Sarah Voss from the parking lot. Sarah, Dale Morrow. Hey, Dale, what's going on? You run the Carradine route? Yeah, Wednesdays. Why? What's it like? She laughed. What do you mean, what's it like? It's a distribution center. You back in, they unload, you get coffee, you leave. Pretty standard. The town itself. What's the town like? I don't really go into town, just the facility. Pause. You know this, Dale. You've been there. Humor me. It's quiet, small, pretty, actually. Lots of trees. The people at the center are friendly. Good docs. Quick turnaround. Another pause. Are you feeling okay? You sound off. I'm fine. One more question. Before you started the route, before the memo went up, had you ever heard of Carradine? The line was quiet for several seconds. When she spoke, her voice was different. Not alarmed, thoughtful, searching. I'm not sure. I feel like I must have. It's on the route board. But before the route board, before March, I honestly don't remember. But that's normal, right? I don't remember the first time I heard of most places. It was a reasonable answer. That was the pattern. Every answer anyone gave me was reasonable. Individually, in isolation, nothing anyone said was wrong. Mapping delays, new developments, normal scheduling, standard infrastructure. The reasonableness was the wall. Each person I talked to reached the edge of the question and found a perfectly sensible handhold to keep from falling into it. And I was the only one hanging in the air. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I ran my normal routes, Tulsa, Springfield, back again. The signs remained. Carrollton, all routes. The highway got a little emptier each time. Not dramatically, you'd have to be counting, the way I was counting. But where I might have shared the road with 30 or 40 vehicles on a given stretch, now it was 20. 15. The traffic wasn't gone. It was turning off. Saturday evening, I drove to exit 29 again, parked at the base of the ramp, facing east. This time I got out of the truck. The air smelled like rain-wet pavement and something else. Something botanical I couldn't place. Not unpleasant. Like a plant I'd never encountered blooming somewhere past the curve. The road east was lit now by something, not streetlights, but a diffuse glow beyond the trees, ambient and warm, the way a small town looks at dusk from a distance. 2 miles, the sign said. 2 miles to Carrollton. I could walk it in 30 minutes. I stood on the shoulder for 20 minutes. 5 cars passed me on the road east, all heading toward the glow. None came back. My phone buzzed. A text from Ricky Fenn. Reminder, April 12th run, Carrollton, load ready at Springfield Center 5 a.m., delivery window 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., 4 days away. I got back in the truck, drove home, lay on my bed staring at the ceiling. Here's what I keep trying to explain to myself. The pull wasn't sinister. That's what made it so difficult. If Carrollton had felt dangerous, if the signs had been wrong in a way that suggested malice, if the people who went there came back changed or didn't come back at all, I'd have had something to resist against. You can fight danger. You can refuse a threat. But nobody came back wrong because nobody came back at all, and no one seemed to notice their absence. The world adjusted around each departure seamlessly, the way water closes over a stone. Tom Hendricks went there twice a week and was fine. Sarah Voss went there and was fine. I had apparently been there and was fine. I just couldn't remember it. The question wasn't, is Carrollton dangerous? The question was, why am I the only one who thinks not going is an option? April 12th, 4 a.m. My alarm went off. I had decided during the 3 sleepless nights prior that I was not going. I would call in, swap the route, take a personal day. Whatever it cost me, a mark on my record, a conversation with Patricia Kemp, Ricky Fenn's frustration, I would not drive east toward Carrollton with a load I didn't remember agreeing to deliver. I picked up the phone to call dispatch, dialed the number. It rang. Ricky answered. Cold Chain Dispatch. Ricky, it's Dale. I can't run the Carrollton route today. What's wrong? Truck issue? No, personal. Silence, then. Dale, this is your 3rd scheduled run. You completed the first one in March without issue. The customer is expecting you. I'm not going. More silence. I could hear Ricky thinking, calculating whether this was a write-up situation or a wellness check situation. Okay, he said finally, I'll reassign it. But Dale, I need to ask, is something going on? Because your records are clean and your performance has been fine, and suddenly you're refusing loads and asking weird questions. I just need a day. Take your day, but call me tomorrow. We need to talk about the schedule. I hung up, got dressed anyway, couldn't stay in the apartment. Drove to a diner on Glenstone Avenue and ordered breakfast. The waitress was normal. The food was normal. The morning news on the TV behind the counter talked about weather, sports, a school bond election. No mention of Carrollton. No mention of signs changing. No mention of a town that hadn't existed 6 months ago, now pulling traffic off the major highways of 2 states. I ate my eggs, drank my coffee, and I noticed for the first time how thin the diner was. Not closed thin, early morning thin. 6 seats occupied out of 40. The parking lot outside maybe a quarter full. Springfield was still Springfield, still working, still alive, but lighter, like a photograph slightly overexposed. The mass of the city had decreased by some imperceptible amount. Not enough to close businesses or trigger alarm, but enough that a man who counted vehicles for a living could feel it in the spaces between parked cars. People were leaving. Not in a rush, not in a panic, just the way people leave a party, gradually without announcement, until the ones remaining realize the room has gotten very quiet. I didn't run the Carrollton route on April 12th or the 19th or the 26th. I swapped with Tom Hendricks each time. He seemed happy to take the extra runs, said the facility paid a bonus for quick turnarounds. I didn't ask him to describe the place again. I didn't want to hear him tell me it was fine. By mid-April, I'd stopped driving northbound on I-44 entirely. I took alternate routes to Tulsa, US 60 West to I-49, the long way around. It added 90 minutes to my drive. Ricky asked about the fuel expenditure. I told him I preferred the scenery. The signs were spreading, or rather, I started seeing them on other roads. US 60, Highway 13 south of Springfield. Even the city streets, not the big green interstate signs, but smaller ones. Brown informational signs like you'd see for a state park. Carrollton, 34 miles. Mounted on existing posts, bolted to existing structures. Looking like they'd been there for years. I started keeping a notebook. Dates, locations, sign text. I took photographs. They showed up on my phone exactly as I saw them. Green signs, white text, Carrollton. If I showed the photos to other people, they saw them too. They just didn't find them alarming. "Oh yeah, Carrollton," said the kid at my usual gas station. "My cousin just got a job there. Distribution center, pays well." "What does your cousin say about it?" "Says it's nice, quiet, good benefits." He shrugged. Why? Why? The question no one could answer for me because no one else was asking it. Why did a place I'd never heard of 6 weeks ago now feel like the center of gravity for the entire region? Why was everyone slowly, casually, undramatically flowing toward it the way water flows toward a drain? Not with force, but with the simple inevitability of gradient? I'm still here, still in Springfield, still driving, though the routes get lonelier every week. The highway's not empty, not yet, but the ratio is shifting. More exits taken, fewer vehicles in my mirrors. The diner on Glenstone closed last week. Not permanently. The sign said relocating. Didn't say where, didn't need to. My route history still shows that March 21st delivery, my signature, my truck, my completed run to a place I cannot remember visiting. And every morning when I wake up, before my thoughts fully organize, there's a moment, just a flicker, where I know which direction east is without looking, where my body registers a coordinate like a frequency, persistent and low, the way you feel the pull of a missed highway exit miles after you passed it. I haven't gone back. I won't go back. But I need to be honest with you. Not going feels less like a choice every day and more like a delay. Like I'm not someone who refused. I'm someone who hasn't arrived yet. And the signs know it. And the road knows it. And somewhere east of here, past a curve I've stood at the edge of twice now, something knows my name and my truck number and the exact dimensions of the space I'm supposed to occupy. I drove there once and forgot. The forgetting is the only thing protecting me, and I can feel it thinning. It's April 30th. I'm riding this in my truck, parked behind my apartment in Springfield, facing west. I face west on purpose now. Small gesture, probably meaningless. Ricky called this morning, said the schedule's been updated, no more swaps available. Hendricks relocated, Sarah relocated, Miguel's gone. I'm the last driver on the Carrollton rotation who hasn't moved to the area. He didn't say Carrollton, he said the facility, like it doesn't need a name anymore, like it's the only place left to send freight. My next assignment is May 3rd. I told him I'd think about it. The thing is, and this is what I can't tell anyone, the part that keeps me awake, I don't think Carrollton is bad. I don't think the people who went there are suffering. I think they arrived, and they're fine, and the world they found is real and solid, and has coffee in the driver's lounge, and good loading docks, and pleasant tree-lined streets. I think the horror is simpler than that. I think I'm the only one who noticed it wasn't always there. And every day there's one fewer person left who would understand why that matters. The signs are still green, the road is still open, and I'm still here. For now, I'm still here.